Yeah. 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 So many lies that you hear from the net, they don't get her respect. She reporting the truth, not a check. You want an unbiased opinion straight from the chest, not a bit of accomplice or someone here for a check. Tune in, these are thoughts from a lawyer on a mission who goes so hard it's like she works on commission. Trolls in the comments might say she tripping cause they lack the knowledge. They don't know they missing. Got a couple current events that you like. Wanna know about law from the eyes. Tired of all these blogs running lies because their agendas are disguised. Tune in to the intellect, cause I'm sure y'all missing all the facts of the case that she steady is gifting. Someone here for the people, man, it's so uplifting. If you ain't subscribed yet, then you just omitting facts.
Hello, everyone. Please put a 1 in the chat if you are tired of this Diddy trial. Put a 1 in the chat if you are tired of this Diddy trial. For those of you that don't know, my name is Pam Esquire, also known as the Law Intellect. If you are new here, welcome. Welcome to all new subscribers. Make sure that you let everyone know in the chat that you're new over here so that we can give you the proper greeting, because we are all a legal family over here. We are social media jurors, and we evaluate various cases from the neighborhood to Hollywood. And our purpose is to try to take away the emotion and actually get into what the law says. And we have been discussing every single day almost the Diddy trial. And I'm over it. I'm over it. And part of it, honestly, is, and that's why I'm out here in the backyard in this hot weather. All right. I wanted to let you guys know that I'm over it. I really wasn't even going to go live until after we had a verdict, and that was going to be the next time I had it. Once I found out Diddy was not testifying and that the defense was not putting on a case, I was like, okay, well, because that's why I was going to go down to New York. I was like, I should go down to New York because I want to see them put on their case, and then they decided not to. And we're going to get into that as well, because I've seen a lot of speculations or assumptions as to why they wouldn't want to put on the case, but y'all know why he didn't put on a case. Why do you think that Diddy did not put on a case? Let me see how much you guys have learned being over here. Why do you think Diddy did not put on a case? Hey Lisa, good to see you. Good to see you, Andrea. Hey Queen Brielle. AK, good to see you. Purple Paradox Lady Trucker, good to see you. Ernest said, free my guy. TJ said, thank God it is the last week. Praise the Lord. Okay. Jesus. Not the 1. You are over it, huh? That's over it to the 5th power. Thank you, KK. So yeah. So let's you said the prosecution didn't prove the RICO. Okay, that's from Black Jade. Cam VC said he will be pardoned by Trump. Shantae said because the burden of proof isn't on them and they don't think the prosecution proved guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Shantae, you are the student of the month, okay? Shantae, you are one of one, sis. You are student of the month. I could not believe that people were like, oh my God, Diddy gave up. What is he giving up? He doesn't have a burden to prove. That's burden shifting is what people are doing. He doesn't have anything to prove in this case. That's for the prosecution. He doesn't have to prove his innocence. The prosecution has to prove his guilt on each and every element beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, One of the arguments that is going forth is that when it comes to the RICO, which we discussed over here, and apparently people are just not getting the memo, where I mentioned the statute of limitation on the RICO, and they want that to be a jury instruction. Why is that important? It is important because, yes, we heard so much information about Cassie, but in order for this to even matter, the alleged conspiracy, enterprise, all of that had to be up and including from 2019 forward, because there's a 5-year statute of limitation. That is why we have to go by what the evidence says. However, statute of limitation is very important. So this is why when it came to Jane's testimony, I said it before that they actually needed it. Because with just Cassie, it was almost like a background pretext of he's been doing this for years. He's done these freak offs, which is really ex trafficking and prostitution under the Mann Act. He's done this for a long time, but then he left. Him and Cassie broke up in 2018. What is also interesting about this case, and what the prosecution probably pondered over as well, is that interestingly or not interestingly, when you're looking at all these text messages that are being introduced, the government is putting in one side. They're like almost like they're making the defense have to do the entirety of a lot of their exhibits in order to get the full context. So again, there was an argument the last time we went live, and they only did like part of the text or something, and then the defense had to come on and try to do the other part. All right. And then to give it context, that is allegedly what is happening right now, letting all these jurors, they have to listen to these tapes or watch these, physically listen and watch these tapes. I would not want to be in their shoes right now. They have probably watched more flicks in the last couple of weeks than they have in their entire life, if they've ever watched it before. And so now you have like sorry, y'all know Danielle got to make her appearance. So now you have the defense trying to complete certain text and complete, okay, the prosecution is doing 30 seconds of a video. They're doing 1.5 minutes of the video. So they're watching it kind of, for the completion of it all. There were some text messages between Cassie that were released. They weren't leaked. People call everything leaked. It's not leaked. Leaked verdict form. The verdict form is a proposed verdict form that was filed on PACER, which is a public document. So you had the defense do their proposed verdict form. Then you have the prosecution do their proposed verdict form, and they'll probably end up somewhere in the middle. That is what happens most of the time. Hey, Just Nikki, good to see you. And then the same thing with jury instructions. They're proposed jury instructions because I'm proposing what I want the jury to be instructed, and the government is going to propose what they think is most favorable to them on how they want it to go. And sometimes there's just pattern jury instructions that you just use commonly all the time. Like lawyers, what they say is not evidence. You can try to come up with theories and tie it together with your theory, but it's really not considered evidence. You got to go by what the evidence says. You're not supposed to rule based on emotions, things that are just general. But when it comes to, ooh, my little fan fell. All right, my little fan out here. But the wind is blowing a little bit. Hold on. Cut it off. Oh, it's probably loud anyway, huh? I just got used to it. It's been on so long. You said, I'm so glad you're on these streets. These streets they're just interesting. They're interesting. I never will say what a jury is going to do, because you never know. It's been times where I would think one way and they was thinking a whole nother way. That's why it's important to do have a jury consultant, which they do have, and also have you guys You cannot tell me that we know the prosecution is watching our YouTube videos because they trying to catch us slipping. But the defense probably is also catching what people had to say about this trial. And I believe that after looking at what people had to say between TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, they probably felt like much of the public, enough of the public, because there's some people that's just like fry him, put him in prison, we can't stand him. But aside from that, people that kind of came in with more of an open mind, they're kind of like, I don't think they proved it. I think the RICO is tough. I think the ex trafficking is tough. And I said before, I still stand on the position on the prostitution. Diddy's alleged argument for the prostitution, according to TMZ, I don't know how they're getting their actual strategies or what they're going to argue in summation. But the argument allegedly is for the prostitution of these escorts basically testified that they were there not to get paid for X. They were there because they got paid essentially because Diddy didn't want them to reveal what they were doing. So the money being paid was not for the relations. The money being paid is for you to keep it quiet. So almost like an NDA type situation. Think it's very interesting. Will the jury buy it? I don't know. I guess we'll know soon, right? Some of the text messages for Cassie, and I didn't upload them. I did not upload them. Oh, that was me. I didn't upload them, but I did have some of them that I was reading, and I was like, it's just interesting. Very, very interesting. Hold on, y'all. And I'm gonna get to your comments and questions because you probably have a lot of them. So one of the batch of texts, which were exhibits, and as you guys know, inner city press specifically has been fighting very, very hard for transparency in this trial. Every time that they don't file, they talk about communications before the jury comes in every day. Inner city press is like, but why is it on the docket? So they file motions. Other people have filed motions as well because they have not been getting the exhibits in a timely fashion. So there was a dump of text. People are calling them leaks, but they are just exhibits. And let me see. You said if the jury unanimously believes the one or two times the victims refuse to participate is coercion will be interesting. It'll be very interesting because looking at the text today that the defense is entering because the prosecution has rested their case. When you look at what the defense is on their cross-examination of the agent that is basically doing the summary of the text messages, what they are filling in is times where we know Jane Doe alleged that every time she got with these escorts, it was at the prompting of Sean Combs. Well, apparently there's text messages that beg to differ, where she had other relationships, I guess, allegedly, with some of these people or contacted them a couple of times when Sean Combs actually was out of town. So let's pull up. I'm just going to do the summaries of what Jen just Law has to say. So let's go to... So this is the jurors. If you see this picture, this is the jurors listening, and the defense table. This isn't the jurors. I'm sorry. This is the defense table because you see Diddy. This is probably, that looks like Steele. I think Garagos is the one actually doing the cross examination. This is the agent on the stand. Of course, that's the judge, and that's the government in front From what I remember, the government sits towards the front the couple of times that I've been at the Southern District of New York. So this is them. And they're listening to and watching audio or those explicit activities. So, according to Ginger's Law, defense shows Jane pursued Sly. Remember, Sly is Cabral, who is out of Atlanta and who is a worker. Tenny Garagos read December 2021 text between Jane and Sly. Jane asked him to send me something, then pushed him to fly in for another encounter, even suggesting a day trip when he said he was busy with family. And then they give their commentary that it challenges Jane's testimony that she only initiated contact with Sly under Diddy's pressure. Then text about Leo encounter was revealed. Defense attorney Tenny Garagos reviewed a set of text messages from early April 2022 between Jane and Sean Diddy Combs, just before Jane allegedly met with an entertainer named Leo. Combs wrote, "I've been having crazy fantasies about you and Leo." Jane replied, quote, "Baby, I want to make love to you. I want to make love to you. Oh, remember that was going around over there on I know I'm so random, y'all. Over there on TikTok. That little song. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Don't leave me hanging. Baby, I want to make love to you. I haven't selfishly had you to myself for 5 months. I'm fine with other stuff, but I really just need you right now." Okay. Not shy. Dominique said the sketches are so race neutral. Wouldn't it be nice if the reality? So. I don't know. We on vacation. We ain't on no vacation. I done worked every single day. Where are you? I have worked every single day. I'm just saying. Whatever you want text followed by one-on-one plans. Combs responded, "Okay, whatever you want." A few messages later, he asked Jane if Leo would be free after we spend some one-on-one time. After the alleged encounter with Leo, Jane texted Combs again, "Still thinking about you, loving all over me." Then the jury reviewed text messages from early October 2022 between Sean Diddy Combs, Jane, and a man named Paul, who Jane previously testified frequently participated in their hotel nights. Jane texted Paul, "Ready for some fun tonight?" She followed up with, "Come after the butlers are finished helping. You can wait in the lobby if you get there early." Combs to Paul, "Hang tight." Around the same time, Combs also messaged Paul directly, texting, quote, "Hold up, the staff is outside. They leave now. Hang tight." So basically they're showing how the staff didn't even know what the heck was going on, and that because they didn't know what was going on, that just takes away the whole they were trying to keep it private. It wasn't anything that everybody knew about it. So hey, Ebony Woods. Hey, Lady 3500. You said it's not showing that I'm online. I don't know. I'm here. I'm glad you found me. So then this next one has defense attorney Tenny Garagos review text from January 2023. Diddy and Jane appear to be coordinating a hotel night with Paul, taking steps to avoid staff seeing them. Then Diddy, there was a text where he said, "Can I walk in on you and Paul? I would like that." Jane's like, "Yes." She followed up asking, "What time should I tell him?" Then this is another text. Diddy said, "Maybe 9:30 so he doesn't run into anyone." Jane later texted Paul, okay, let me make sure the coast is clear. So again, this is trying to show that there was no organization here. Yes, he's done some criminal stuff, but whatever he did, it wasn't no RICO. It was just because he chose to be the little criminal that he decided to be. None of this was organized if this is a crime. Now, when it comes to the freak offs, he's basically saying this was his bedroom. And now they're trying to police his bedroom. Homeland Security got other things to do with their lives, but they want to come and worry about who he's messing with in the bedroom. So then Jane told the entertainer to, quote, give it a beat for security. She later texted, quote, he's still making sure everyone's gone outside. So again, these are text messages where the man that is on the stand with the summary of the text, they left all of these out. Okay. So then they said Diddy was sitting all like, they said they could see him where he sat there. He was like, so Diddy's over it too. He's so over all of this. They've embarrassed him. No, a lot of people won't look at him the same because they was all up in his business. They basically told every intimate detail, I think, of the lives of his life and his partner's lives and his girlfriend's lives. And yeah, this is why I said it didn't make sense for him to pay Cassie that $20 million. You pay that money before it gets out because you're trying to protect other individuals from knowing what's going on. You're trying to keep it from. You're trying to protect your image, your reputation. And that's not uncommon. But once it got out and you've seen everybody around the whole world was reading it, it just didn't make any sense to me. But hey, who am I? So then they talked about Diddy's misdemeanor. Diddy sits hunched over, following along as his lawyer, Tenny Garagos, cross-examines the HSI agent about texts showing Jane booking escorts and planning freak-offs. The prosecution is expected to rest after the agent steps down. Can't have KK, no. Diddy to Jane, I can't have KK, no. Damn. Jane arranged a location for a hotel night, met with an entertainer, and picked up new outfits. When asked if she was in the mood, she replied, yes, I'm in the mood. Diddy said, did you get pills? And hit me with when the coast is clear. Jane said, Joey is gone and Italian is pulling up. Next day, Jane texted Diddy, I love you, loving on me and me on you. And then May of 2023, Jane texted Diddy about an available entertainer, adding, quote, baby, all is set. After he didn't reply, she was organizing a hotel night and flights to Miami. Payments and lobby waiting. Jane told the entertainer she was clearing out the assistant. Give me a sec. They had to stop by to drop off stuff. Later, she thanked him and offered to send payment via Zelle. And then they take a break. Tenny Garagos resumes cross. What do you think of the new guy? That's from Diddy. Jane said, he seems cool, babe. I'll make sure he signs the paperwork. So, does that mean that these people had to sign NDAs, which would basically corroborate that they were being paid to keep it quiet every time they came? Maybe that's why they came up with that theory. Because I was like, what are you talking about exactly? Because I was thinking without saying it. Wouldn't you give an NDA of some sort if you're saying you're paying them to be quiet, but so it's not prostitution? I'm not paying for the actual act. So allegedly and apparently there must have been NDAs they had them sign. So it's like a lawsuit. For you not to disparage me, I'm gonna have to give you a couple dollars. For you not to tell people what we got going on in here, I'm gonna have to give you a couple dollars. So apparently this is why they're coming up with the prostitution defense allegedly. Um can everyone check that you hit the like button? Thank you so much, Tracy. Get the people together. Chapel Hill said, right, the insurance company for the label settled, and now we are here listening to Freaks and Addicts Lifestyle. Pretty much. But it's almost over. Almost over. It's almost over. So let's go on. Jane to Diddy says, I love being kinky for you. I need to get outfits from the freak store. Diddy replied, I effing love it. Next day, Jane to Sly. Tonight was amazing, per usual. That's why you had all of these people getting on the stand saying they didn't think that she felt she wasn't acting like she was coerced or that she didn't want to be there. So then Christina Coram said, Wow King mode active or Gucci bag active? Brendan Paul replied, in between the two. These are stuff they went over already because this sounds real familiar. The HSI agent confirmed February 19, 2024 wasn't listed as hotel event and no text from Diddy or Jane were reviewed for the day. Jane in Miami before apology video. Flight records show Jane flew to Miami just before Diddy's May 2024 Instagram apology over the Cassie assault footage. HSI agent confirmed no evidence of a third party meeting them in Miami. Cross-exam turns into closing argument. Tenny Garrigo's cross of agent is dragging past the 1 hour 15 estimate. She's using the government's final witness to preview the defense's case. Messages showing Jane as an enthusiastic participant in Diddy's freak-offs. So then the jury watches the explicit videos, which is probably the drawing that we saw. The jury is viewing another actually explicit clip. Per Judge Submaranian's order, the public and press cannot see or hear it. Sensitive material is shielded for privacy reasons. Tenny Garrigo showed jury records showing Diddy personally paid travel invoices for Jane and entertainers in September and November 2023, but the government chart credits the travel manager. So basically, the chart says the travel manager is the one that paid for it, and this name kept coming up, whoever this lady is, and some people know about her. I don't know the lady, but apparently it's some big deal related to maybe some other celebrities or whatnot, I think. And so they show records that show that it was not the travel manager, it was actually him. Garrigo said, you didn't write that Mr. Combs personally paid for these. So now there's a 6-minute video shown to the jury, and they're explicit. She told the court one final video remains, and it was created December 17th of 2021 before she ends her cross. So the cross-examination ends. Redirect began. The defense has concluded its lengthy cross of HSI agent Joseph Cerciello. Prosecutors have now begun their redirect questions. Let's see. The prosecutors and Sean Diddy Combs have rested their case. Judge Submaranian has dismissed the jury for a lunch break. So now what's going to end up happening? I told you guys the motion for judgment of acquittal. We talked about that before. They're going to ask that the judge dismiss this case, saying that they have not satisfied their burden. The judge is probably going to say, yeah, whatever. Denied, unless he just want to go rogue and be like, no, I do agree. I don't believe this comports with the statute. But I don't think he is. He's going to leave it to the jury's discretion, to the fact finder. So, subject to confirming that all of the government exhibits are accurately reflected in the record, the government rests, said prosecutor Emily Johnson. They're now reviewing to ensure all evidence is properly submitted. Defense attorney Alexander Shapira, quote, there's no evidence that Christina Coram knew or believed that Diddy's girlfriends were being coerced, end quote. So it takes away the co-conspirator aspect of it because they kept saying she was a co-conspirator because according to everyone else, yeah, she may have known about the freak offs and called them king nights because we have different names. I think it was hotel nights with Jane. However, she didn't know he was committing. It was not okay. She didn't know that it was actually alleged coercion. So how are you saying there's a conspiracy? You have to have an agreement with someone to have a conspiracy, and this is a racketeering conspiracy charge. So they don't believe that they've shown who he conspired with, and they're alleging he conspired with Christina Coram. But if Christina Coram had no clue that there was coercion, that means that she may have had a clue that there were these hotel nights, but she had no clue that he was allegedly like coercing them, which is what would be required when it comes to the trafficking specifically. Shapiro added, "There's no evidence Coram facility." So this is the things that they are arguing to the judge. It looks like for their motion for acquittal. Shapiro added, "There's no evidence Coram facilitated any crimes except maybe drugs for personal use." She argued that some text showed Diddy lied to Coram. Shapiro further said that's not the way co-conspirators act with each other. Yes, it has to be an agreement, like a meeting of the minds. She stressed that the alleged conspiracy began in 2004, but Coram didn't become significantly involved until 2016. So she wasn't even around in 2004 for you to say a conspiracy started in 2004. And the reason why the government put 2004, the only information we got from 2004 was from Capricorn Clark, which would have been the alleged torching of the vehicle. I think that's when Capricorn Clark came. So apparently they're saying she didn't get significantly involved until 2016. They moved for acquittal. Alexander Shapiro has filed a motion for judgment of acquittal on all counts. She's now breaking down why the defense believes prosecutors failed to prove their case. No conspiracy on racketeering. On the racketeering conspiracy count. Didn't I tell you I was racketeering conspiracy? All these people going around saying something different. I'm like, I'm going to need some of y'all to just read this good indictment. Okay, let me see if she actually filed the document for it. That would be very interesting to read. You guys, please make sure you hit the like button. I appreciate it. This breeze is great. It's everything right now. I had to put the fan on my little laptop so it wouldn't be all hot. Let's see. Nah, she didn't file anything. I was getting too excited. Okay, she says on the racketeering conspiracy count, there's at best thin proof that any of the other employees willingly participated in crimes with and for Mr. Combs. Only exception, small amounts of drugs. What did staff really know? Shapiro said Combs' assistants didn't know much, if anything, about what went on between Mr. Combs and his girlfriends in the hotel rooms. Shapiro said Diddy took steps to conceal the nature of the actual activity. That's why they were showing those texts from his employees. Evidence? It was Combs, Jane, and Cassie who booked entertainers, not the staff. Shapiro also pointed to messages, including one seen earlier today where Jane coordinated hotel nights to avoid staff run-ins. So they're saying it's I guess they asked this person, have they ever been granted? Of course they've been granted before, but yeah. Do I think so? I'll be shocked. Ex trafficking with Cassie. Alexander Shapiro says the government failed to prove that Diddy coerced Cassie Ventura into commercial X acts. There's no evidence she didn't want to participate in the freak offs. She enjoyed it. Quote, a person in Mr. Combs' position clearly would have understood that. She enjoyed the actual activity and did not feel coerced, Shapiro told the judge. Their relationship was toxic and Mr. Combs was regrettably violent at times, but domestic violence is not ex trafficking. Defense says Ventura was not coerced into freak offs through violence. If Diddy became violent, she left. So that was one of the things what the government was trying to prove, which I don't think they did, is that the video that we saw at the hotel, it was after a freak off, according to her, but Cassie couldn't say that she was beating her, telling she had to stay and continue to do the freak offs. That's what they were trying to portray. That's the picture they were trying to paint on this canvas. However, I don't know if they did that. But the judge may think, because that's the theory that can be deduced from it, a jury needs to decide whether they want to believe that that's what happens. So, of course, the judge reserved his ruling. Judge said he'll reserve decision on the defense motion for judgment of acquittal. Of course, he would. Then they have to have, because Combs has the right to testify, they have to ask him in open court on the record, do you intend on testifying? You know you have the right to testify. Are you being coerced? Have you been promised anything? Is there any reason of which why you're not? But you know you got this right, and you're waiving that right to testify. They got to get all that on the record. So they say Judge Submaranian is conducting Diddy's allocution about his right not to testify. Do you understand it's your decision? Diddy said, yes, my decision. I'm making it. Because apparently he think he's going to Harlem shake up out of there. Shoot. He was like, ain't no sense to add fire fuel to the flame. I don't think that they actually proved it. So that's probably what he's thinking. Not beyond a reasonable doubt. He feels like his attorneys poked enough holes during cross-examination of which it has not been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Robert said Diddy wants to testify, so I'm sure he wants to, and I'm sure whoever gets that sit-down interview, of which I'm sure he's going to own half of, if he does walk up out that joint on Friday, then now if they come back in like 35 minutes, he walking out of there. If they gotta wait and it's gonna be about a week, a little bit, and they're probably a hung juror. Anything in between is kind of up in the air, but it's probably a guilty on something. But yeah, Cheney said, if I was on the jury, I couldn't send this man to prison for life for this. And that's what he's hoping. Hold on. AK said, I think he's going to walk. Make sure y'all hit the like button, please. I appreciate that. Diddy to Judge Submaranian. He said, I've been wanting to tell you thank you. You're doing an excellent job. The judge chuckled and replied, thank you. I appreciate it. Look at Diddy trying to finesse the judge. Like, Now that I have a chance to talk to you, I think you're doing a great job. Well, he's not going to. He's made some rulings that are a little suspect, but I understand, Diddy. People throwing videos out dragging the judge too, and he probably didn't seen them. But yeah, so Diddy done tried to butter up the judge. So yeah. The parties are taking a 15-minute break. Afterwards, the defense will present its brief case and then adjourn for the day. So it looks like what they're going to do is the defense is probably going to make sure evidence is in. So they may not be calling witnesses. I'm interested. I thought at minimum they were going to try to have an expert come on at minimum. However, it appears that maybe because their expert wasn't all that great, they felt like they didn't have to. So over the weekend, they had a lot of decisions to make. It's very interesting how at first Diddy said he needed 1 week to put on the case. Then it went to, oh, well, the government's going to end early. They dropping witnesses. Okay, we going to need 2 weeks. Then it went from 2 weeks to 2 to 5 days. Then it went from 2 to 5 days. So we not calling nobody. We thought they had something. We not calling anybody. And so I think the consensus amongst a lot of people is we got bamboozled by the media. I caught I picked up what was being put down a few months after, but I have to admit I kind of drunk the Kool-Aid too at first. Because when I saw the indictment, I'm like, what does this have to do with what people are saying? But they kept saying it's an ongoing investigation. Damian Williams was like, it's ongoing. We know it'll be superseded. So I'm thinking all this stuff about these people coming out on tapes and celebrities, all this stuff is going to come out, but they're just waiting to present it. But the interesting part is y'all did all this raids and you don't have anything on his own device. Nothing. Everything they got was from Cassie's devices, probably Jane Doe's because she probably willingly gave it. But nothing from this man's devices that were in his home after this big media circus because the cameras were already outside set up by the time Homeland Security came. This big, and y'all ain't getting nothing off them devices. Zero, nothing. So the allocution dialogue. This is the dialogue, and allocution is basically, you're with a person like is getting about to be sentenced. From that perspective, you give your client's background. You tell them he's the father, he has kids, he has, whatever. From this perspective, it's you have a dialogue on you knowing what your right is and that you understand your rights and that you're waiving that because he has a constitutional right to testify. However, he doesn't have to. And I kind of was leaning towards when they made sure the jury instruction came out about him not testifying, but they also had one about him testifying as well. But that's a jury instruction. I'm sure it's going to be entered in that you cannot use that against him because he doesn't have the burden. I understand basically by the media that is a hard concept for a lot of people to even grasp. It's a hard concept because people think, why wouldn't you want to defend yourself? Why wouldn't you want to defend yourself in something like this? The problem with that is you open the door for more bad acts or whatever to come in, or it could be character evidence that comes in that you don't want to get. So it's a gamble. It's a gamble. When I watched Whitehead get on that stand, they had so much evidence against him. I don't understand why he ain't just plea. But when I watched him get on that stand, the way the government tore him up, and he started blaming AI and everybody for the stuff they had that was connected to him or off of his devices. And they had his emails and devices and all of that. So The allocution, Submarinian asked if he had discussed with his lawyers whether or not he should testify. The Diddy said yes, thoroughly, Combs responded. Submarinian asked if it was his decision not to testify in this case. Diddy said, "That is my decision, Your Honor." Diddy said, that is solely my decision. He followed up before adding, "I mean, it's my decision with my lawyers." Then the judge asked him if he understood that it was his decision to make. Diddy said, "Yes, my decision. I'm making it," Combs said. So now you got the jury back in court. Judge Submarinian is back on the bench. The jury is entering now as the defense prepares to present its brief case. So the defense presents its case. The defense begins the defense's case by entering exhibits and reading Cassie Ventura's December 2012 messages to Diddy. Quote, "I'm down for whatever. I love you and I'm sorry I've been mean." Another text message, Diddy said, "You think you can FO without getting high? LOL." So again, that's to show that wasn't nobody drugging you to go do these FOs, because I'm asking you to do it without being high. She said, "Yeah, I'll just have to be at my level and what is good for me." And then later, "Be a little freak." So then the defense is rested. The jury is off tomorrow. Prosecutors will not present a rebuttal case. Judge Submarinian dismissed the jury, who will return Thursday morning for closing arguments. So there's that. That is the end of the case. Make sure that you hit the like button. It's 800 of you guys in here. Amani said, "I hate to be this guy. They prosecuted him based on the domestic violence video, and the women were salty about his outward treatment. Good treatment of young Miami." Put that in quotes because we don't really know. Please don't beat me up too bad. Nope. I agree with you. I think a lot of this had to do with that video. Even though they'll tell you don't act on your emotions, it's kind of hard not to like this guy based on the video. And so even though they'll say they're not trying to play on emotion, they played that video as much as they could. They slowed it up, did it backwards, had people understand about whether it's authenticated, and I'm sure they're gonna play it in their closing. Almost guaranteed they're gonna play it. It's Mimi said, "Not at all. You make good points in a black and white world. I agree." Killer Rob said, "Free Diddy." A lady 747 said, "If nothing else, Diddy should learn it doesn't pay to be an a-hole." That even if they agree and they consent to be a part of you being an a-hole, right? Mo Better said, "Defense kicked ours today." LS and said, "Yeah, I'm with you, Pam. What happened to the oil with rugs on it?" Child, they done talked about baby oil so much. I was like, I felt like it was dirty for me to buy it in the store. I'm like, should I be buying this baby oil? What are people gonna think if I get this baby oil? Lamont said, "I say it's a tough decision to make in testifying because of the evidence presented. He doesn't know what could be added to help the jury make a decision." That's Lamont. It is a very tough decision. But if he doesn't and he has the jury instructions and they're closing, they hammer in on the closing, and they're gonna argue they don't see a conspiracy. What I told y'all a long time ago. Based on what I saw, I'm like, but that's an agreement. And the staff was being kept out of it. At minimum, that's the bare minimum of a conspiracy, is you have to have an agreement. You don't have to necessarily complete what you agreed on, the criminal act, but you have to at least have an agreement of some sort. You say you'll never buy baby oil again. Can't buy it in peace. Takia said, "I ain't never gonna stop using baby oil. I don't care. I'm chocolate." Love it, Takia. Chapel Hill said, "Which proves this case was brought to the public based off of a DV offense that has passed the statute of limitation." And I think a lot of your comments is why the defense made the decision that they made to not put on a case. We don't know. See, they don't know if they call any of their witnesses they had to come and support. They don't know if they're going to stand up on cross. Like they don't know if they're going to break down and start going on. They don't know if the government have found dirt on them. They don't really know, right? So because of that, it's actually Russian roulette to put anybody on there aside from maybe an expert. And you really don't, and that's not your burden. You're shifting the burden to say, I'm going to prove to you I'm innocent. You see her motion for acquittal, she talked about the law. What we just read was Garagos talking about the law, the facts that are into evidence, and saying X trafficking requires coercion. Coercion was not proven, so it's not, each element has not been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Look at prostitution. There was an NDA. He was being paid for the NDA. He was not paid for sex. So they haven't shown that there was payment for prostitution. Look at the RICO. It's RICO conspiracy. They have not shown an agreement, or they have not showed a conspiracy. So as you see, when they're doing their motion for acquittal, they're saying they have not proven each element of the offense, period. Now, if the judge denies the motion and it goes to the jury, because again, I think it's a fact question for the jury. The judge is going to say, because you do have testimony of Jane saying that she was coerced and she felt coerced. Judge can't just sweep that under the rug that she said it. That's evidence. That's a credibility decision for the jurors. We may not believe her, but that's a credibility issue for the jurors. Diddy's team is going to show the text messages that say she wanted everything, and she initiated, and she even had her own side situations in Vegas where she showed her top part. She also talked to these people after the fact the next day. Oh my God, it was great. It was excellent. They're going to show it's reasonable doubt. That's not the judge's position to say, I believe you over you. He would have to do a credibility assessment. That woman testified and it is evidence. So that's why I'm saying it's a fact question for the jury, and it's going to be denied. So when it happens, don't make like it's some big deal. Oh, they didn't believe nothing Diddy said. I could just imagine what some of these content creators are going to say. It's not what that means. That means the judge has to really be like, okay, there was no evidence whatsoever that they could have been coercion. They're going to try to say that Cassie being abused is why she did this for him, but she really didn't want to. There's text messages that show things that you can say that's otherwise. That makes it a question of fact for the jury because you have evidence for both arguments. The jurors are going to have to decide who they want to believe. So that's a question of fact. The prostitution. We already know these individuals were paid. So the jurors are going to have to decide, was it an for the NDA or was it actually for prostitution, for the X? Judge can't make that credibility call. That's not his job. He's the referee. This is not a bench trial. Also, what the RICO, same situation. You got the predicate X. We know that he had a business. We know that there was some information that maybe he may have paid some things from his business, but we also see on the other side that he's saying it was all from personal, or there was a reimbursement. Is his personal assistant, and so that's their job. So no, it's not a RICO. They didn't even know what we was doing half the time. They just knew that I like to get my freak on, and they set the rooms up for me with my girls or my girlfriends. That's all they knew. They testified to that. Also, they're going to say, like they said, Christina ain't know nothing. The government is probably going to do a theory that she did know. And you, based on circumstantial evidence, whether you got direct evidence on whether she knew that there was X trafficking and coercion, allegedly, they're going to argue that based on all the evidence is circumstantial evidence of which you can come to the conclusion that perhaps she knew, which makes it again a question of fact for the jurors to decide. So this is why this motion is probably going to get denied. Yes. So even though we can say, oh, they caught her in a lie, they also presented a case, the government did, of which they can say she didn't lie. That any of these, it's people that's saying everybody on the stand lie. Everybody pretty much done got caught up in something on this. We can all agree to that. But how much weight that's put on that is up to the jurors. That is their job as the fact finders. I think that the evidence that comes from Diddy is reasonable doubt because you have actual direct evidence that contradicts the theories and the circumstantial evidence that the government may have. Either way, though, it goes to a jury to decide. Anthony Logistics said, Diddy come? You think he Harlem shaking himself up out of there? KK knew what Diddy was doing. She was a fixer. That's from For Always Forever for Life. That may be what the government was basically trying to put on as a co-conspirator. You were the fixer. You know, they say they got that in the church world. People that go out and try to cover up pastors and what they doing as a fixer. So yeah, Armani said, right, they cannot separate emotions and speculations from the case. Has nothing to do with morality. It's case law. Vloggers piss me off with their people been saying as if they know. You know, just imagine being a lawyer and you just know, like, I've heard so many different things. I've heard people say, "Oh, Judge Submaranian is ruling this way because he's got to be elected and he has to be reelected." No, federal judges are appointed by the President of the United States, and it's a lifetime position. So I hear a lot of things knowing, but I can appreciate people being everybody obviously hasn't been to law school and don't practice, so I can definitely appreciate people and their interest in it. But I think what people should do is they should recognize, like I do as a lawyer, I don't do every area of law, and I think that people should recognize where their shortcomings are, like what they know and what they don't know. You can just report the facts on, oh my God, it was a bombshell, blah blah blah. That's why I said I like the at least the presentation. Whether Armand, I don't know where he's at now, but I know at some one point he was like, I think it's done. It's a lot of people may say that, and they've said it, that the government has proven a RICO. That's up to the jury to decide. If what you're saying, the information is that the jury received is what proves the RICO, the jury literally can say, we're discrediting all of that. We don't believe nothing she said. Then where's your theory that it was proven? I get they might be saying the facts. You have to say if they were completely agreed and believed by the jury, everything the government said and what it means, then perhaps, yeah. But we cannot negate the fact that the defense has had a way to poke holes in almost every theory that the government has come up with. Now, again, how much do you want to believe? But again, the defense has showed direct evidence. They showed text messages. They've got them on cross-examination. They got the receipts from Bongolan. They got Don Richard and hemmed up. She was the first one that got hemmed up real good in two-piece. They've gotten a lot of people. All the ex-workers that's coming out and doing interviews now because their name is out there. They all said everybody enjoyed it. They never thought it was coerced. They never thought anything like that. They also were saying, I guess, that they weren't paid for X. That's not what they were paid for. But again, so that would be direct evidence from that testimony. However, you have the government that's saying we can infer that the payment was actually for sex. That's going to be up to the juror to decide. Do we believe this witness that says that's not what it was for? Or do we believe the government that's saying that it was for actual prostitution under the Mann Act? So yeah, that's how it works. This is why I'm saying directed verdicts or acquittals Rule 29s, they are difficult to prove. Is it impossible? No. Brian Steele just got, albeit I don't know if, I think it might have been state court though. He just won directed verdict on one or two of his counts when he was representing the prosecutor who in the Ahmaud Arbery case. Brian Steele, who is the attorney, one of the attorneys on Diddy's defense team, has actually, before this, he was doing, right after the Young Thug trial, he represented the prosecutor on the Ahmaud Arbery case, and he actually, after, yeah, he won on acquittal. He won like a motion for directed verdict on a couple of the counts. I think it was one count left, and then by the end of the trial, I think he got a not guilty on the one count that was not dismissed. So yeah, I mean, she got two-piece. For Always Forever said Jane was paid for performing the XX. Okay, so you're on the government side that Jane was paying for it. But then you got to look on the defense side that she was doing these acts before Diddy was even giving her the money like that. This whole love contract came out in 2023. Diddy was doing these acts with her, with these entertainers in her apartment in New York in 2021. So they were about 2 years in before this love contract and this new house even came about. Now, did Diddy probably buy her stuff? Yes, he did, because he done bought everybody. We seen him in the Chanel store with Young Miami. Yes, he probably did buy her things. But as far as that $10,000 and her saying, I gotta do this because of the roof over my head and all of that stuff, she started putting in the memos after she seen Cassie get all that money. She had already been doing it prior to that money even being there. So the jury is gonna see that. They get to see all the evidence. So the jury will decide whether she did this because and then she also did this outside of Diddy, allegedly. The Vegas trip, she had conversations where I guess she allegedly met up with a couple of times or whatnot, whatever we just read on X, that there was some type of extra meetings when Diddy was out of town. So they get to see that. Do they really think that this is all? Diddy had text messages where they did other things. When she said she really needed him, he was there and he laid up with her. Diddy said, but he was warned how she was and that she may be a little. That's what he said, in the text. I'm not making this up. That is probably in the evidence. So yeah. Yeah, Jane allegedly, what she say, she was 38 now. She was 35 or 6 when she started this. Yeah, it was 2 years before the house. She was in New York, and she also testified that they had these freak offs in the house that she had already previously. Mo Better said, not to mention her child's father is a multi-millionaire. That is true. She gets 4,000 or 5,000 a month in child support, which is like nothing to if you're a multi-millionaire. And that did come out on cross-examination without trying to divulge who the alleged Jane is. That question was on cross, like, your baby daddy is a multi-millionaire. Is that right? She said, yeah. She likes to be kept. She likes men that can take care of her. She likes men that can provide for her. And she testified for that. Felicia H said, right, and Diddy was tight about her doing that. Naaman said, as bad as people want Diddy in jail, I really believe he's getting free. Cheney said, Cassie and Jane also did FO without Diddy being around. That's from Cheney. I don't know. That's the big question. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. I mean, you can warn him all you want to, but that's up to him. She must have turned him out. You said, you know, it's hot out here for a pimp. Hey, PGM Williams, good to see you. Thank you so much, Instant. You said decisions that you think appeals court will reverse. Listen, I don't even try to remotely act like I know what appeals court is gonna do. But I do think there's some appealable issues. I think some of the rulings were a little suspect. And that's just my opinion. He has his attorney that was there, and I think that she's gonna do her thing. Yeah, and I think Judge Submaranian knows that. For those that don't know, Submaranian has been on the bench for 2 years. He's a newer justice over there. Woo. He's a newer justice, and yeah. And Mac, I don't know where you've been. That's not a true statement, allegedly. Darling No Little said, I hear you, but due to the financial evidence, I think he is guilty. Okay. I know y'all playing. I know my sister is not telling the truth that it's only 462 likes and it's 900 of y'all in here. If y'all don't hit this thing, if y'all, I'm outside in 90 degrees, if y'all don't hit this like button, For Eyes Forever said the judge seems fair. People was heated about some of the text messages that the judge wouldn't allow in today. Let me go back to, I think it's towards the beginning. There were obviously motions and all of that before they started today's. She said Combs he seemed weary in court. Sean Combs arrived Tuesday morning in an orange sweater, quietly settling at the defense table. He sifted through the folder of documents. Then he leaned back in the chair. He said, "It's rough on him." Okay, so these are some procedural matters. So they were arguing over text messages this morning. Lawyers were arguing in front of Judge Submaranian about whether the defense can admit certain text messages involving the government's star witness Cassie Ventura. Of course, the jury was not there. Diddy's legal team is pushing to admit texts they say show Cassie Ventura helping set up a hotel room for a freak off. And again, that goes towards the coercion. She wasn't coerced, she was setting up the room. Then, so there's select Cassie texts, I guess, that the judge did allow. Judge Submaranian ruled that jurors can see Cassie Ventura's text saying a freak off night was pretty hot. He also allowed in a message where she was asked if she could do a freak off without getting high. She replied she could. So we already saw that. Okay, so yeah, there were a couple where there, I guess there was some on there of which they wanted. For Ice Forever said this is stressful. He's probably been acting like he's unbothered. That's stressful for anybody. Like, those are big boy numbers. He's like 50 something years old. That's basically you spending the rest of your life and your money fighting to get out if you get convicted. Jane was a gift to Diddy from friend that leveled up. That's from Sensible Creations. Thank you for being a member for 10 months. Thank you for listening. But yeah, I need you to hit that like button. Thank you, Lemon. I appreciate that. Felicia said being a manipulator is not a crime, but I hear you. That's from Felicia. Felicia, you said New Yorkers know a slime ball when they see one. I like the way they say New York. Um, I don't know. All right, y'all. Y'all got any more questions? We've been on for a nice, cool hour. It's been so fun. I missed you guys. But that is what happened today. Of course, I had to address why Diddy did not testify. And, We got the reason from one of the intellects because y'all so smart. And then also we went over the testimony from today, some of it anyway, because a lot of the stuff that he is talking about, they already talked about in this case. They just were entering it into evidence. Um, let's see. Hey, Father, you want to say hi to my people?
Hello, people.
Come over here, say hi. My dad brought me out some water.
Ah,
Say hi to the people.
hello, everybody. Yeah.
Diddy must be taking good care of Gina.
All right.
She already on Instagram. All right, Dad. You know, this ain't the case for you, Pastor.
Bless you.
This ain't the case for you. When we start talking about TD Jakes, we gonna reel you in. We gonna
Oh,
reel you
Lord.
in. What you gotta say about Jakes? Never mind. Don't tell me because I ain't trying to get sued right now.
Get ready, get ready, get ready.
He said, "Get ready, get ready, get ready." Thank you so much. I appreciate the Lord. Appreciate the Lord, the God in you. Okay. All right, we out. Tracy said, "Has anything surprised you?" The only thing surprised me about this case is that it wasn't nothing how it was in the media. This was very much media orchestrated. I don't know everything behind it. People are trying to connect him suing an organization or a company rather, and this happening or someone sending him a message. Am I oblivious that things like that happen? I'm not. But Cassie's lawsuit definitely made it almost where the government didn't have a choice. That's what I feel. Because they're like, we got to get this dude with something. They basically saying he above the law. They said the New York, the NYPD ignoring criminal complaints. It was a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, I was not bad. What are you talking about, Val? What? Christina? No, I was the favorite, Christine. What are you talking about? Hmm? Felicia said definitely media orchestrated. Thank you, Finesse. I appreciate that. My daddy is 75. 75 years young. Yeah, my sister be playing games with y'all. Thank you so much. Danielle is in the house. She was sitting out here with me for a minute and she was like, it's too hot out here. So I'll probably take her to the pool. Big money from Wells Fargo to TJ side parent Oprah. I don't know. And then Tyler Perry and Oprah, they've done a sit down and they basically said, I did not do the things that they said I did. I went by, TD Jake said, I went by and I stopped by the Diddy party for 30 minutes to wish him a happy birthday because I was in town. Next thing you know, it done turned into a whole love affair. Everybody was laughing. Ah! Oprah was like, you too? She said, I have never, nor have I ever been to a Diddy party. So, but we've learned about the media. I call it organized ignorance for a reason. When you talk about the media, this is what's important. This is why I stopped watching a lot of the news stations because I am a political science degree holder. And so I know how things work. I knew what was going on with Trump even the other day was a bunch of bull crap. I knew that Iran does not have the power to really retaliate in that manner. I knew that the we're gonna stop where the ships go for oil. I knew all like after a while I was like, are y'all playing with me? Like, are y'all so I had to stop like watching the news. Like my parents or somebody come to me and they'll tell me certain things or whatnot, and I'll just explain like I'm not what's the real reason? Why are we being distracted? That's what y'all need to find out is why all of this is happening because this is the overlay for the underplay. That's what I'm saying. Have I read the Kevin Hunter lawsuit? I have not. If you're interested, you guys can let me know. But I just thought them on the gall. How you gonna file a lawsuit? You that broke and can't get a job? You rely on Wendy Williams and her like that much to take care of you and your family that you want to sue her and you not even with her anymore? Not sue her, but sue like you're doing on her behalf so you can feel like you can get what's owed to you? Like, no. You said Epstein tapes? That could be. I don't know. I don't know. And the same thing with China. China just, I ain't gonna talk about none of these people. I'm about to mind my black business over here. But anyway, thank you guys again so much for watching. I appreciate that. And yeah, because I mean, I'm gonna say one more thing about this whole Trump thing, and then I'm for real getting off. When they were talking about blocking the ships related to oil, first of all, that is where a lot of the US based ships are. Iran about 2 days, they tanked their own economy by doing that. Like it's dumb. It doesn't make any sense. You're gonna tank your own economy. That's the first thing. Secondly, you will give Trump a reason to go to war with you. Because now he can present to the American people that they're affecting our economy. The oil is going up. And this is what it seems like he wants. He needs somebody to fight right now. This is how you start dictatorships historically. So you need someone right now. You need a reason. He did the airstrikes and didn't even consult anybody. Now it's a gray area. Technically, you're supposed to go to Congress and get approval and go through all of that. But there's a gray area when there are emergency situations. I don't see where the emergency is, but I don't see them going to court because they're in court with all of this other stuff with him. He's getting orders to show cause and all of that on orders they already entered. So, like, what do y'all think? That would just give him the right to come before the American people and say, we are the U.S. We are the greatest country in the world. We will not allow anybody to make our gas prices go up. We will go in. Look back at Bush Sr., Bush Jr. That's all I'm going to lead you to. That's all I'm going to say. But anyway, a work in progress said war is also a way for Trump to stay in office. And honestly, like I said, suing don't make no sense. Why? Because he in litigation right now for all them executive orders that he just decided one day to start writing. He was in office like 2 days and he was in there. Shoot. They were just handing him papers. He was like, shoot. So they're in court tied up trying to get judges to do something to stop the you're asking a person that has presented themselves as being lawless to obey the law. Don't make no sense. So I want y'all to get your blood pressures down when it comes to this. Always be vigilant, period. We learned that from 9/11. You always be vigilant. These people are out here jogging. That is crazy to me. But as far as like doing the whole panic and then within 24 hours, there's a ceasefire between Israel. And that's a whole nother situation too. Y'all do know Israel, the state of Israel, the secular democracy Israel was not established till 1948. But, you know, we understand the biblical references and all of that they have in there. But people, that type of stuff is just what aggravates me. So I don't really watch the news like that. And the Diddy case is another example of, again, the news. We ain't seen no baby oil laced. We ain't seen J-Lo and all these different people that we were supposed to see. The lawsuits aren't even really panning out the way they say that they were. This case did not help these people in these lawsuits. And I think that's what they wanted. They were hoping that that's why you had these attorneys coming to the trial. They were hoping this type of information that they can grab these transcripts and they can corroborate their testimony and get a couple dollars. Okay. So just be vigilant. Read for yourself. That's what I used to say. If you want to keep a black person ignorant or in the dark, put it in a book. So we're not going to be like that. We're not going to be that way. Voice Forever said, Pam, since I found your channel, I've been reading the Constitution and lots of law because we need to know the laws. You have to. Ignorance is not going to help you, especially in days and times like this. Now, how much they actually implementing the rule of law, I don't know. I'm not too confident how they doing it. But yeah, I used to carry a pocket Constitution. I was just a whole nerd when I look back. I'm like, I can't believe I used to have a Constitution in my purse and be randomly reading it to make sure I remember and refresh it. For no reason. It wasn't like I was just going around telling people about the Constitution. Just was, I guess, intrigued by it. Power Dynamics that Israel's playing, huh? Kai Marine said Diddy's case was a waste of time. Blaze said I'll take a break from the rich legal. You said this ain't in your tax bracket. So yeah. But anyway, y'all, thank you so much for all of the support and all of that good stuff. I appreciate it. This was fun. I'm glad I came on. I hope you guys enjoyed all of the content. Again, if you just so happen to forget to hit that like button, and if you're new here and you enjoyed yourself, make sure that you subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out whenever we go live. And also consider joining the membership. All right, y'all. You guys have a good rest of your day. If anything else breaks, you know I'll be back on. But until then, I'll holler at you later.